Now to this shocking story, you would have seen the viral video of a Crawford College substitute teacher writing racial slurs on a whiteboard. It included the K word, which she apparently said would not offend pupils as they did not experience apartheid. The 82-year-old teacher has since been dismissed and the school has apologized. The Human Rights Commission has now met with the school. It's offered to conduct equality and diversity workshops at the school. Let's find out what else came out of that meeting from the SAHRC's Zamantungwa Mbeki. Good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us here on the South African Morning. I saw this viral video yesterday for the first time and it's shocking to say the least. Let's just talk about the SAHRC's initial reaction to the video and when you first became aware of it.
Thank you so much for having us. We first became aware of the video. I think it was last week, earlier in the week, and you would have seen that it was actually trending for exactly what you just said, and immediately reached out to the school to find out what was going on.
And the SAHRC then had a meeting, if I'm not mistaken, with the said school on Friday. Could you just provide details as to what was discussed and what recommendations were made?
Definitely. We did have a meeting with the management of the school, including the principal of the school on Friday. One of the things that we did decide to do is that we were not going to duplicate the investigation, but we would leave the investigation to be conducted by the South African Council of Educators. And that was because you would note that it is a sensitive environment, noting that there are children there and that the SACE had actually already started with the investigation. And what was agreed was that we would just get the report from there. And based on that report as well, then we would decide or figure out the other recommendations that would come from our side. But in the meantime, what we would do is that we would support the school through the Commission's advocacy program, that is with the diversity program, with training of the teachers on equality and other forms of discrimination as well. But I think one thing to note from the video, and I think that's something that we must give kudos to the learners for, is that they realized that something not good was happening, and that they were actually in their own were able to say that what is going on is not right, and they were the one in their own initiative to take the video. And I think that's also something that we wanted to convey to the learners, is that it's actually good that even students as young as grade 8 can see when an incident of discrimination and outright racism is happening.
I think for the students as well, it was quite shocking to experience, and a lot of them seemed quite disturbed. What sort of support is there for the students after experiencing such a traumatic and offensive situation?
We were advised that, the school reached out to the parents and informed the parents of what has happened. And through their counseling services that are available in the school, they've reached out not only to the class that is affected, but to the greater schooling community as well, offering these services. And we were advised that there was already a diversity program in the school, which is something that's always good, that the diversity program pre-existed, and it's not something that is only created when an incident like this happens. And you will note that incidents like this usually happen quite often. If you remember that there was an incident similar to this at Cornwall Hill, and we've had them at different points in different years. So it's actually good when you do have an institution that has a diversity program that is actually undertaking a program preceding these incidents. But we have offered our advocacy services for now, while we're waiting for the SACE to conclude the investigation.
And what details do we have surrounding this teacher? Latest reports suggest that she was a substitute teacher. Has she now been officially dismissed?
Definitely. And she's also been reported through the different channels for the reporting of educators. But as we said, that in order for the process to be concluded, it is the South African Council of Educators that needs to conclude its investigation. And I think that might I can conclude that it might lead to termination or suspension, and so that she might not be able to teach anymore. But she was a substitute teacher, and that the permanent teacher who was supposed to be teaching the class was actually in hospital, but that teacher has returned to teaching as well.
And then moving forward, how do we ensure that instances like this do not continue occurring? As you've mentioned before, we've seen this happen in the past at other schools. What can we do to ensure that we don't see a continuous a repetition of this sort of behavior and trauma?
An incident like this, it's hard to isolate it and say that it's something that is very prominent within the schooling community. It's a societal issue. And I think that when we reflect on incidents like this that keep happening within society, with the pit bull lady, videos of racism coming out, often in order to tackle this, we can't just look at it exclusively within the education sector, but we need to also look at it, but how do we tackle issues of racism within our society broadly? And with issues as the Commission, we will continue to pursue these matters through the equality courts. But a preventative measure is what is really required. What is going on within our homes? What are we teaching? And what is the language that we are using when somebody does not have a video in front of us? What is going on in our interpersonal spaces in the workplace? So I think what is happening is that people are thinking that words like this no longer matter, like what you've just said, the teacher said, is that, oh no, we can go ahead and use words like this in WhatsApp videos when we are angry, when we are having road rage, and that these words don't matter anymore, whether it's the K word, N word, C word, and all the rest of the words, but the mad words do matter. And they hurt a great part of our society whenever incidents like this do happen. And in some instances, they actually even incite harm. So if we think about it, we must look what is going on in our interpersonal spaces where we were unlikely to be caught by video. And I think that we as a commission receive so many of those complaints, but obviously there's no evidence to prove that such an incident did happen. But what it's showing us is that we're not necessarily getting a specific decline in those certain matters, because for the commission, equality still remains one of the main complaints that we receive on a yearly basis. And that's showing that we're not getting a decline in terms of people using racism or conducting themselves in racist manners in interpersonal spaces.
And it is indeed concerning. Just to finalize and conclude, you can confirm that there is currently an investigation ongoing with the SA Council of Educators. Can you share any details?
At the moment, I don't have any details. We were advised that they were still undergoing a process with the parents to try and access the learners. And it was that sensitivity that we said that we would just let the SACE proceed, because when you do engage with children, you have to go through all of these processes which are necessary for the protection of their mental health. And therefore, we said we didn't want to duplicate the efforts and further traumatize the children. And we said the SACE should just carry on with that process, and that we would just jump in and engage with them, get engaged with them once they had concluded that investigation. But definitely, ours is still open as the SAHRC.